Mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. UFC 286 preview show starts now!
Oh, yes, the UFC is across the pond, where tomorrow UFC 286 goes down inside the O2 in London, and Leon Edwards gets his shining moment in the main event spot as the world champion. He will defend the welterweight title against the man that he shockingly knocked out on the brink of defeat 7 months ago in Kamaru Usman. The trilogy fight is upon us, and the stakes could not be higher for both guys as we welcome you to the UFC 286 preview show here on MMAfighting.com. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you all, and a happy UFC 286 Eve. I am Mike Heck, joined this week by my best friend coming off the bench, and I love it, Alexander K. Lee, and also fresh off his trip to beautiful, luxurious, tropical Winnipeg, right, AK?
Oh, glorious, beautiful Winnipeg. Shout outs to all my Winnipeggers out there. I love you very much. And Mike, I have to quickly apologize to America. I did the weigh-in show this morning. Casey was there, and we promised people would be getting some Shaheen Al-Shadi action. I am just stepping in for Shaheen. Shaheen is fine. You know, it's just a reshuffling of duties over here at MMAfighting.com. We play it fast and loose like jazz. So you're getting me instead of Shaheen. I do apologize to everyone, all the Shaheen fans out there, but I will do my best to carry on for the man himself.
And we appreciate that. And also joining the fray, Mr. No Gray Area himself, fresh off of his BTL victory yesterday, Jed Meshew. Hello, Jed.
Hi. And echoing what the great AK Lee said, shout out to all the peggers out there. Love the peggers.
Yes. Gentlemen, by this time tomorrow, as we stream, UFC 286 will already be underway. So, AK, let's start with this. It would be impossible for the hype and expectation for this card to match UFC 285 and the return of John Jones. It's just not, it's not even a fair thing to try to compare the two. But this one feels like it's been a bit of a slow burn. We've had some twists and turns along the way. We even had a surprise appearance at weigh-ins from Colby Covington this morning that nobody saw coming. But you can give a gymnastics score if you want, but how would you gauge your anticipation levels for UFC 286 less than 24 hours away from this event kicking off?
I'll give a quick gymnastics scale. Listen, it's not the deepest card if we're going from top to bottom. I think the main card, fantastic. But this is how you book a pay-per-view overseas. This is how you book a pay-per-view in London for a UK crowd. You've got some newcomers. You've got some veterans. So it's nice. It's a nice looking card. Like I'll give it like a 9.1, 9.2. I mean, honestly, Gaethje Fiziev being on the card should like elevate it to a 10 automatically, but I'm trying to maintain some sort of objectivity here. So I'll say 9.1, 9.2 if everything goes right. Because yeah, it's not the deepest. You know, if someone settles down at 1 p.m. Eastern time, or what is it, 10 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. How do time zones work? 10 a.m. Pacific time. They might not recognize a lot of the names and faces that are popping up before we get to the pay-per-view. But that doesn't mean they can't be great fights. Of course, people always say, it's the cards you don't talk about, it's the fights you don't talk about that always deliver. And there's certainly a lot of talent. But I think a lot of people just sort of glancing at the card might be scratching their head to some of these names. But it's a chance for a lot of people to prove themselves. So I'll go 9.1, 9.2 on the gymnastics scale. And for me, my level of anticipation is pretty high. Again, I'm probably focusing just on the main card. But yeah, when you've got a banger like that in the co-main, I think there's a lot of contender stakes. I'm really intrigued by the main card opener, Victoria and Delitse. And man, who doesn't love a good trilogy fight? So I'm kind of up in the air. I know we're going to talk about our official predictions soon. But just the fact that it's still kind of pinging around in my head who might win. And that to me is a sign of a great main event. And that London crowd is going to be just absolute fire throughout the night. And so again, I say 9.1, 9.2. If you're there live, I mean, for you, it's probably, for those fans, it's probably a 10.0, right? I mean, it's probably going to be off the charts.
Yeah, they're on fire. They were on fire at the ceremonials that just wrapped up. Jed, where are you at? 24 hours away. Are you fired up for UFC 286?
Not really. I mean, I'm fine with it. I gave it a score of a B- yesterday, and I stick with it. An 8.2, 8.3, so somewhere in that range feels right. The main event is super intriguing. I'm not excited about it. I am interested in it. If that distinction is understandable, like the first fight wasn't all that fun, but it was compelling, and I expect we're getting the same thing here, one way or another. Co-main event, couldn't be more excited for anything. Like if this was just the main card, and so it's a short burn with those two topping it, this is great. But as AK said, this may not be the best card, but what it lacks in quality, boy, howdy, is it bringing quantity just up the wazoo. 15 fights coming at us tomorrow. That's a lot of fist fights. And I'll be like, I understand why every individual one of them is on this card. You just don't need all of them. And I think many of them will at least be some level of interesting or good, but this is main card. What you are paying for, you're getting your money's worth. But the 10 fights that come before that have me a little down or a little suppressed on my overall value of the card. And let's just be honest, 2 pay-per-views in the span of 3 weeks is a lot. So I already got to highs for 285. I was elevated, and you can't just keep going back to the high. You need some time to clear the palate, refresh, and with only 1 week in between, and that week having what was a very compelling main event, it's tough to get back to those A+ card levels.
AK, so many interesting questions surrounding this main event because we have Kamaru Usman doing something he hasn't done in a long time. He's coming into a fight off of a loss, and he's doing something he's never done before, entering the cage after getting brutally knocked out. Leon Edwards has gone from sort of the overlooked, undervalued man in this division to a guy that seems to have everything on his side right now. The momentum, he's got the home mat advantage on the heels of maybe the single greatest moment in UFC history, and so much more. But with so many questions on both sides, what are some of the burning questions you have with this fight? It's for all the marbles, it's probably the last time these two guys are going to fight. What's on your mind here when it comes to breaking this main event down and the burning questions you have?
Yeah, I hate to just go right to the intangibles because listen, there are people that are much better and much smarter about breaking down the technical aspects of a fight than I am. Um, but I have to keep looking at like that one big thing you mentioned, coming off a knockout loss for Kamaru. Now I'm always a believer that guys like this come back stronger. I would point to say GSP's loss to Matt Serra, that weird fluky loss. Except that they're at very different stages of their careers. Where they were. That for GSP that happened before his epic welterweight championship run really started in earnest. That was like his first title defense, and he just biffed it. For Kamaru, we were in the middle, or could be in the middle, could be the end, depending how Saturday's fight goes. But it feels like we were in the middle of this, this welterweight championship streak. He would have to get past Leon, tack on 2 or 3 more before he really started getting into that. Oh yeah, he's surpassed like GSP talk. So now we have the question of, like most great champions, does he rebound from this loss stronger than ever? Again, he's at a different stage. This was later in his championship run. He's older. He's 35. He'll turn 36 in a couple of months. And old in fight years as well. I mean, this guy's been doing this for a while. I know. It's been a decade now. It's been a hard decade fighting at the highest level, preparing for almost nothing but championship fights for the past 4 or 5 years. So it's a cliche. Is there that eye of the tiger? Is there still that hunger? Is that hunger to improve and bounce back? I would certainly guess so. I mean, just to having to overcome that talk of, you lost it in that last second. It was you gave the fight away. You made this big mistake, and now are you actually able to get this back? Are you the better fighter? Are you the guy you showed in your first fight? Are you the guy that showed up in three of the 5 rounds of the first fight, really, and most of the 5th round? Is that the real Kamaru, or is there the changing of the guard? And then that's where you kind of go towards the intangibles on the Leon side, where is this newfound confidence? I mean, he's always been a confident guy, but now you have this invincibility of I overcame this hurdle. This people say I couldn't get the big one, much less win the big one. People can, again, he'll knock the performance all they want. So he was on his way to losing a decision. That's fine. At the end of the day, he landed that shot. He had that comeback. Not everyone has that ability to reach down. People to respond to their coach in that way. We've seen dozens upon dozens of fights where the coach will go to the fighter in the last, ahead of the last round. You need that finish. You got to, don't give up. You got to be a killer. And a lot of fighters just don't have the ability to find that. Leon Edwards somehow did. And this is why he's the champion now. So for me, it's the question of is Kamaru going to be a better version than we've ever seen coming off his first loss in a long time? And if so, I mean, then Leon Edwards has no chance. At the same time, if the head kick really was a passing of the guard, if Leon Edwards is, he takes that win and says, okay, well, I mean, there's no doubts at all now that I am the number one welterweight in the world. I am a top 5 pound for pound fighter in the world. He's been saying all the right things. Now we got to see if he can really, really perform like that as the favorite, because it's like I said, it's possible Kamaru Usman beats him. We sort of just returned to the conversation we were having before about Kamaru's greatness, and the Leon Edwards head kick goes down as this very, very memorable blip in Kamaru's run, or that was legitimately the end of Kamaru's run, and the Leon Edwards championship run is just beginning. So a lot of intangibles for me, but that to me is what makes it more intriguing than just saying, oh, which guy's a better wrestler, better striker, and all that.
Jed, it's always tough having you on after we did BTL because we've answered a lot of these questions already. But I mean, is there anything burning that you sort of left on the table yesterday because of time constraints? Is it anything with the athleticism? I know how highly you gauge athleticism in this sport, how it's a cheat code. Maybe I think it's pretty fair to say that Kamaru's athleticism, he's turned the corner in the wrong direction. He's getting older. He's talked about his knees being kind of shot, but he still was winning fights, and Father Time is undefeated. So anything else that's kind of left on the table you didn't get to say yesterday?
I don't really remember what I said yesterday. I felt like I mostly said whatever I thought. I don't think athleticism's like a huge factor in this fight. Kamaru Usman is certainly athletic, but that's not like the basis point on which he's won fights historically, and it's not the reason he lost this past rematch. This fight feels very the interesting parts of this fight are in the unknowns, because this fight seems very well known. They just fought 24 minutes, and all indications seem to be that the same fight will unfold. The question, the thing I am interested to find out on Saturday is that true? Well, Leon Edwards talked about how the altitude, he couldn't really compete as well. His mind was saying things his body wasn't following through. Is that true? We'll find out. Is he going to come in with a different game plan? Is he going to be more aggressive? His coaches the whole fight long were basically pleading with him to stop backing the F up to the cage, and he sure just kept backing the F up to the cage. So will he not do that this time around, or is that just the structures of how this fight plays out? I would venture to say that it is, that the ancillary circumstances aren't really the big factors at play here, and that we know how the texture of this fight should look, but let's find out. I don't think Usman's going to come in differently because he got knocked out, but maybe he does. I don't think Leon Edwards is going to suddenly become this berserker, because that's never who he's been, but maybe he does. I think there's a very high likelihood that Saturday evening we're all just like, yep, that was exactly what we should have anticipated. We've seen these guys fight for 40 some odd minutes, and it's looked the same for all of it, but for that part in the first round where Leon scored a takedown, took back control, which was great, and then the one head kick in the fifth. So I think it's probably going to play out that way, but there are the questions, and I would like to see those questions answered.
AK, the stakes are really high here for both guys because Usman sort of has cemented his legacy as the second best welterweight of all time in a lot of people's eyes. He's never lost 2 in a row, but with this division being in the place that it's in right now, could be a tough time getting back if he loses 2 straight to Leon Edwards. And if he wins, there isn't a ton for him, especially at 170. Maybe Bilal Muhammad, maybe Khamzat Chimaev. He's kind of back and forth about what he wants to do. Maybe Usman tries to move up. Who the hell knows at this point? And then for Leon, I mean, it took him freaking forever to get to a title shot. He gets his hometown main event moment as a champion. A win makes things real interesting, opens things up to a lot of different opportunities against some big names that he hasn't fought before, but a loss could really sting here considering the road he has had to travel. So what are your thoughts on the stake for this fight? As the landscaper said, you know what? Mike's got to be doing a preview show right now. So let's go ahead and blow some grass and leaves all over the friggin' place.
Listen, yeah, there's more on the line for, if we're asking who's there's more on the line for it's got to be Leon. It's got to be Leon. Kamaru, listen, if he lost on Saturday and retires, like we said, he goes down as the second best welterweight of all time. A great UFC championship run. Was the pound for, at least in our rankings, I think the UFC, at least for a while, was the pound for pound number one for a stretch there. That's really all you can ask for in combat sports. I mean, it's just to have that peak, to have that peak that is memorable, that is undeniable. And again, I think for almost undeniably, people can always debate it. It's pound for pound. He was the best fighter in the world. Will he be able to regain that? I don't know. It's the other thing about MMA is it's really hard to peak multiple times. You have some guys who hang around forever and find ways, like the Donald Cowboy Cerrone's who kind of are able to navigate these peaks and valleys. And but for guys who've reached the very, 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 very top, once they kind of meet this opponent, let's say again he does lose to Leon. Once they meet this opponent again, it just might mean the end. And yeah, he can change divisions. Maybe there's interesting fights at 185. Again, I'm not super pumped for it. I'm not sure how much heat there is around that. I could be wrong. Fans could be clamoring. I should have made that the poll. Fans could be clamoring to see Kamaru at 185. But again, you're so clearly seeing the best version of him at 170. It's like, I don't know what the even back in the day, again, to bring up GSP again, when he moved up to middleweight, I wasn't like, oh, finally, like GSP moving up to middleweight. Like, no, the only reason we wanted that was to see him fight Anderson Silva. It was cool to see him win a second title. That fight was super memorable. I'm glad it happened. But like, I remember at the time, it wasn't like, man, I hope when GSP comes back is to answer those unanswered questions of what he could have been at 185 pounds. And I don't know if there are those questions for Kamaru either. So, but the point is, I don't think there's a lot he needs to answer. He's just accomplished so much already. Leon, I worry, and I hate to bring it up again, but if he loses, let's say he loses a convincing decision, like some 50-45s, 49-46s, or Usman finishes him, are people going to look at that head kick as a fluke? Because it wasn't. It was not a fluke. It was not a fluke. It was you can call it a desperation shot. You can call it, again, that it doesn't tell the whole story of the fight. That's fine. It doesn't. Kamaru won most of the first fight, but listen, fights are 25 minutes long. So I hope that Leon, if he loses, gets his flowers. But I do think there's more pressure on him that if it's a convincing win for Kamaru, that people are going to really gloss over what Leon did and his run, the work he put in to even get that title shot. So for me, there's more on the line for Leon because he's got this should be the start for him. Beating that the torch should be passed. But it's definitely not going to be easy, and Kamaru's not passing it over willingly by any means.
Do you agree with that, Jed, that there's more pressure on Leon here? Or, what do you think about the pressure, the stakes here? And do you feel like this rivalry doesn't get enough credit because of the moments and because of where they're at right now? Now they're headlining this card. I feel like these might not be like the two biggest stars to be part of a trilogy, but perhaps this rivalry and these three fights, especially between what's happened to August heading into tomorrow, I feel like maybe it doesn't get enough love compared to some of the others.
As far as the pressure, I'll answer the rivalry question in a second. I'm not sure. The answer probably is Leon, just because this is in front of the London crowd. But I think they're under very similar amounts of pressure, and it's kind of, both guys are with house money sort of at this point. I talked about it yesterday. Look, both guys want to win, and a loss will be pretty devastating to them professionally because that's how this game works. But Usman's legacy is set. He's the second greatest welterweight of all time. And by losing to Leon, his legacy is also probably set in that it's unlikely he gets to surpass GSP, right? Like and it's not entirely fair, but GSP had his loss at the beginning of his run, not in what would functionally be the middle. I talked about it yesterday. I doubt Usman is going to hang around. Not that there are not challenges for him at welterweight, because I've said this a million times, there are always challenges for you. It's just whether you as the champion deem people worthy to fight you. Usman at one point in time had fought a lot of the top five in the division, but time moves on, and that's not the case anymore. His 5 title defenses were against Masvidal twice, Covington twice, and then Gilbert Burns. It's 3 dudes. Shavkat's there, Hamzat's there, Bilal Muhammad's there. There are plenty of dudes coming up. He could stay and fight. I don't think he's going to do it. So in that regard, maybe Leon's more like needs it more. But as I said yesterday, like Leon's kind of golden now. That one kick, like he would love to stack on top of it, certainly. But forevermore, he gets to call himself an undisputed UFC champion. Cannot be taken away from you. He will go into the Hall of Fame either on personal merit of his career, or that fight and head kick will get him in there one way or another. And he doesn't have to do Leon Edwards things anymore to get back to a title fight. If he loses tomorrow, he is still a former champion, which is more than anybody else in the weight class can say. And so he won't have to put together a 6-fight win streak to get another title shot. So I think both of them to some extent are playing with house money. So there's pressure because it's better to win than to lose always. But I think that they're kind of a loss doesn't kill either dude, in my opinion. As for the second part, what was the second part of your question?
Where is this trilogy ranked? Does it get enough?
Oh,
Does it
yeah,
get enough
trilogy.
love?
We wrote about this this week in a primer roundtable. This trilogy's we can't answer the question until this fight is done, because realistically we rank trilogies after the trilogy is done to have a real sense of what it means and how it matters to us. This is fine. It doesn't deserve more love than it's getting. The first fight was not fun, and it was a lifetime ago. So it's just how it goes. Like there are honestly most trilogies in UFC history aren't as good as we think about them. Like there is a compelling fight in there, and then usually at least one of the other two is not that interesting. So this just happened to have its boring one up front. Like there's every possibility this is Frankie Edgar Gray Maynard, right? Where the first fight no one really cared about, and then they had two classics. So if they come out here and they put on a fight of the year, then this rivalry trilogy will move up to the higher ranks of that. But if this is Usmaning all over Leon for 25 minutes, then people are going to write it off and be like, well, that was a trilogy that happened, but it's not Randy Chuck or whatever, because it's sort of just how it goes with these things. It's tough to have 3 compelling fights against the same person. It's just, it almost never happens.
AK, Colby Covington is in London. Weighed-in is the backup.
Is he now?
Yeah, he's there. He's been completely silent for a year now. And there he was.
I thought he had brain damage. Thought he was suing Jorge Masvidal over brain damage.
Hey,
he must have dropped that case
happened.
Because let me tell you, you don't get to move forward with a case for brain damage if you're signing up to fight some dude in a cage.
Well, be that as it may, he was on the scale this morning. John Anik introduced him. He comes walking out, was in the box of redemption, and he hit the mark at 170 pounds. Speculation ran wild, AK. What does this mean? Is he now next in line? Twitter went bananas. So what does this mean in your mind, having Colby as the backup over Bilal Muhammad, who certainly has the resume to have earned that spot? Is this just some extra sizzle on the proverbial steak? Try to get a little extra buzz for the card? How do you define this? What does this all mean?
I mean, listen, he was always, it sucks to say, was always ahead of like Bilal Muhammad and other guys at welterweight. He has a certain name. He has a certain cachet. He has a history with Kamaru Usman. He even has a little bit of history with Leon. I mean, they haven't fought each other yet, but I mean, Colby has been running down Leon verbally for quite a long time, and Leon's fired back. So it's actually like, listen, I don't like Colby Covington, but it's a really smart backup choice. Like, of course, we hope nothing happens to either Leon or Kamaru and that this just goes as scheduled. But like if Saturday afternoon they had to pivot to Colby and Usman 3 or Colby and Leon, it's a pretty like good quick sell. Your pay-per-view is probably definitely going to take a hit, but it's a pretty good quick sell because you have all these clips of things Colby has said and things that Leon has said about Colby. And I'm sure the video team, I don't know if they have it ready. It wouldn't be surprised me if they did, because the UFC video team is pretty damn solid. So I imagine they have this stuff in the can again, should Colby have to step in. Yeah, I don't know how much it means as far as like, were they just trying to stir? Because if they were trying to stir up a buzz, why not just announce ahead of time that Colby, was going to be their replacement? I know that's something that UFC's kind of sketch with. Like sometimes they'll tell you a month in advance, or a fighter will say in an interview that they're going to be their replacement, and we're able to confirm it. Sometimes it happens during the week, and sometimes they just don't mention it at all, and then people are just surprised. I think even when Alexander, Sergey Pavlovich was a replacement for the Gone Jones fight, and that was known. People were still surprised. So the UFC, for whatever reason, doesn't make a big deal about these things. They didn't. Apparently, this was very intentionally kept under wraps. I know. Our guy Errol Helwani was sort of tweeting that this was kept on the down low. It sounds like maybe Usman and Edwards knew, and we're kind of just being cheeky about it when the possibility of it came up earlier this week. I don't know for sure. I would assume that maybe their managers knew and that they knew and just didn't want to say. It's weird. It's a weird thing, I would say, for them to like agree to cover up. Like if I'm a fighter and the company asks me, hey, don't mention that you might be fighting this replacement, I just be like, screw you. Like I have other things to worry about. If I'm asked about it, I'm just going to say, yes, this is what's happening and move on. So very, very strange situation in that regard. But it does sound like, this wasn't like a last minute thing. Some people knew. But as far as if the fight goes off as scheduled, I hope Colby does not slot in to face Leon. But let's be real. There's a very distinct possibility that happens. If it's Kamaru, no, they're not gonna book him and Kamaru a third time right away. I don't see that happening. But Leon, his next challenger may already be in the building, like it or not.
What did you think, Jed? Like I'm sure both guys knew for a while. Remember the build? We announced the fight. We think the fight's gonna happen on this day, and then Usman would show up and do interviews. He had a cast on his hand, so maybe it cast a little bit of doubt. So maybe Colby was just kind of on the hook anyways, in case something happened with Kamaru. But I'm sure both guys have known for a while. I'm sure this isn't something that was booked like a week ago. But they did a damn good job keeping this a secret and in a space where you can't really keep anything a secret. So what did you think when Colby stepped on the scale this morning? Did you think anything of it?
It's fucking shameful. Like, that's just it. Like, AK can be a very polite and positive person. It's fucking shameful, man. Like, Colby Covington has one win over a currently ranked UFC welterweight. It's Jorge Masvidal, who they have, I think, at number 11. Jorge Masvidal himself has no wins over currently ranked welterweights. There is zero reason that man deserves a title fight right now. He simply does not. Bilal Muhammad, God love him, should have been in this position. Or hell, Shavkat would have been fine too. Like, there is no excuse for them to continue to roll Colby. He's not a star. Is he building pay-per-views? No, he's just a guy who's lost to Usman twice. Like, I don't understand it. Make this man fight somebody real to earn a title fight. If he fights Hamzat or he fights Shavkat, no questions asked. He can be back in the conversation. But Bilal Muhammad, if I'm Bilal Muhammad, like, I take this as a personal offense. I'm like, no bullshit. I'd be like, cool. I know that you guys hate me and you can all go to hell. I'm going to fight out my contract and I'm leaving. I'm going to go to PFL. I'm going to make $1 million every year because this is fucking nonsense that Colby Covington, you know how it's nonsense? Because they kept it a secret, because they are ashamed themselves of doing this garbage. Like, it was ridiculous when I saw that this morning. That man hasn't spoken for 6 months or a year, however the hell long it's been.
A year.
After the Jorge Masvidal thing. What is the reason for this? There is none that I will accept that is good. Absolute nonsense.
Well, perhaps we'll get some answers. From what I understand, there is a media scrum going on right now with members of the media, including our own Jose Youngs, with UFC President Dana White, and I'm sure that question is going to be asked. So we'll see what kind of response we get there. So back to the fight.
The problem with this is this now gives him a veneer, a patina of viability. It's like, okay, the assumption when a fighter weighs in as a backup is that they're the next dude in line. Volkanovski got to be the next dude in line at lightweight. Like, he's the next dude in line. If Usman wins, Fuck that. Who gives a shit about that fight? Also, I'm not even sure Usman will fight him. And if Leon wins, why make this man beat somebody this freaking decade? Who matters?
I'm glad you're
We
not
should-
looking at the comments, Jed, because we got some real brain surgeons in here. I'll be honest with you. We have some very smart people agreeing with you. I will say,
Like,
well
that's
done,
fine.
people.
You if you
No,
if
it's
you're
not fine. No,
Colby
no, no.
Covington,
It's not fine. It's not fine. A lot of people are.
if you're a
are
Colby Covington
incredibly
fan,
dumb.
that's fine. Like, I'm not here to tell you he's a bad fighter. He's not. He's very good. But there should be some, I know this isn't a sport, this is a clown show. There has to be some level of meritocracy, some tiny nugget of it in the sport. Or what in God's name are we doing? His one win is Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal hasn't beaten a ranked fighter. It's insane.
Well, perhaps Colby will see the winner of this fight. And as this fight currently stands, Kamaru Usman is the minus 240 favorite, closes a minus 380 for their first meeting at UFC 278. The comeback on the champion, Leon Edwards, plus 200, according to our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. AK, will the magical rise of Leon Edwards continue? Send the home crowd home happy? Hogan must pose? Or will Kamaru Usman send the capacity crowd home disappointed and sad?
Do I actually have to make a pick for this fight? Must I? It's a tough one. They're pretty evenly matched. I mean, you mentioned the odds. The odds are like pretty disrespectful to the champ. But again, if you actually watched the second fight, it's very easy to see how Kamaru Usman will win because he was winning the majority of their rematch of their first championship bout, right? I mean, this is the narrative. This is what makes the head kick so powerful and so important. It's not that Leon Edwards capped off like a super strong performance with that head kick. It's what we all said. It's, man, if he hadn't landed that head kick, we're not even talking about Leon Edwards right now is probably fighting Brian Barberena instead on the undercard. You know what I mean? Like, that's maybe not that far back in the rankings, but you get what I'm saying. That what makes the kick so important is that Kamaru Usman clearly up to that point looked like the better fighter. He looked like, as you said, the almost 4-1 favorite. So for him to be a 2-1 favorite now, or over a 2-1 favorite, it makes a lot of sense. And skill for skill, I mean, again, it just feels like we know Kamaru can beat Leon because he did before in a 3-round fight long time ago. I mean, I think at this point people are kind of discounting the first fight, and that's fine. It was like 7 years ago now. They're very different people, but again, we saw some shades.
7 years isn't that long ago. It's the last time Jorge Masvidal won fight that mattered. So
what was Colby Covington doing during that time? That's what I want to know. But I am leaning towards Leon. Again, I do feel like the pass was the torch was unofficially passed in that last fight. I'm buying into, and yes, this is such a classic, fighter excuse making. I'm buying into Leon was affected more by the altitude in Utah than Kamaru was, even though both guys should have been affected. It affected Leon more. Listen, he's coming from another country. It's these little differences in MMA that make the difference. So, but even if you don't care about that, he won the first round. We know he has the ability to take a round from Usman. And that to me is meaningful. Usman can say all he wants that, that first fight, I made a mistake. There's no way this guy in hell should be able to take me down. Well, he did. Same with the last round. I made a mistake. I got kicked in the head. That should never happen. Well, you did. You got taken down. You lost first round. You got kicked in the head in the last round. You lost. Home field advantage, I also believe, is a thing. I think Leon will be bolstered by getting to fight at home. I think there's all kinds of benefits to him to be able to fight in London. So it's close, man. Like I feel almost zero confidence about this. I still have to, I will tell people I'm still writing my predictions post that will be up by the time, people listen to this tomorrow on the podcast network, if you listen to it before the show. And I'm pretty sure I'm sticking with Leon, but listen, if by that thing goes out and you see me picking Usman, don't be surprised. It's a really great matchup. It's a good trilogy. Like Jed kind of said, how entertaining will this third fight be? How are we going to remember this trilogy from like a pure action standpoint? I don't know, but from a drama standpoint, storyline standpoint, pretty strong. And I think Leon Edwards caps off this series and gets to move on. Though maybe this is just the optimist in me that is hoping that we get to see kind of a new championship run and a fresh run of challengers.
Jed, where are we at? Maybe the betting odds send you into one place with your betting dollars, but your pick may be in a different direction. So are they both the same? Are they different? Where were we at here?
AK, fun fact for you since you asked. A week before the last time Usman and Leon Edwards fought, Colby Covington was getting choked out by Warley Alves. That happened 1 week before.
And
So
that's proof that it doesn't matter. We should ignore that. That was so long ago, Jed.
yeah,
We shouldn't have, we shouldn't even bring it up.
yeah, but now we're here. Yeah, I kind of echo a lot of what AK said. I thought sort of reflexively thinking about this fight months ago frankly, right after when we knew we were going to get it, I was just going to pick Leon because historically the guy who has won the second fight in a trilogy, overwhelmingly likely to win the third. Similar statistics for fighters who have for challengers who have won the belt and immediate rematches. I think that number is 11-3 for them to go on and defend the belt again. And I mean, if you just look over the balance of MMA history, certainly the UFC's history, if you have a long reigning champion, which there haven't been that many of them, but whenever they have been around for a while and reigned for a while and lost, they almost never get it back. We've had a couple of notable exemptions to that rule. Amanda Nunes, obviously last year, reclaimed her title. And so there's a world where this happens, but it's rare. So the question is Kamaru Usman the outlier? And I think I'm going to pick Kamaru Usman just because the realities of the matchup, I don't have any faith and confidence in Leon Edwards to do the good thing because he spent so much of the rematch doing the bad thing until he didn't. But that's why this is a compelling matchup, like this fight is almost certainly going to be boring as hell. But it's either going to be boring as hell and we feel satisfied with the winner, or it's going to be boring as hell and there's going to be one big moment of violence that makes it cool, a la the last fight. So I am compelled and interested in it. I think I'm going to take Usman, but I still don't feel, if I'm betting Leon Edwards, but I don't feel confident either way at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot that you both said that made a lot of sense. And probably for a month plus on Heck of Morning or anytime I was asked about this, it was Kamaru Usman. My pick was Kamaru Usman to win by decision. And momentum is a son of a gun in this sport. And as I said earlier, it seems like all of the intangibles, all of the storyline kind of angles in this fight, all of them point positively towards Leon Edwards. The two fights have been pretty much all Usman outside of the first round at UFC 278 and the kick Edwards landed to win the belt at the end. Although prior to that kick landing, Edwards was picking it up a little bit, started to have a little bit more success in the feet as he was getting confident, but it was almost too little too late. Brink of defeat, lands the kick. And as Jed said, history in these types of scenarios, that is also on Leon Edwards' side. I think the best Kamaru Usman beats the best version of Leon Edwards. But I think we've moved past the best Kamaru Usman. And my biggest question is by how much? And I've been on Usman from the beginning. And as of this moment, I'm choosing to side with momentum, trajectory, and history. So Leon Edwards wins. I think he gets Usman out of there again. I think he's trailing when he does it. He's going to do it in round 4. I'm going with a club and sub submission in round 4. I mean, look, I just go all over the place. I take us on these journeys and I end up with weird things, but I think Leon will catch him with something, pounce on him, something opens up, he pounces on it, gets a sub, and wouldn't be shocked if Usman wins. I just cannot at this point ignore everything favoring Leon Edwards right now. So I'm going with that because I do think we're going to see the best Leon Edwards in this fight. It's just a matter of how far removed are we from the best Kamaru Usman? That's probably the biggest question I have right now. So I am compelled by the results. I can't wait for the result to happen so we can kind of figure out where this division goes.
The poll is close, Mike. I ended the poll. It is razor thin. Edwards, respect to the champ, Edwards 54%, Usman 46%. So
wow,
it's pretty close, man.
I'm surprised.
It's pretty close.
That is very surprising. Look, it's reductive. This fight, whoever was moving forward is winning this fight. It's very, very simple, but it's entirely true. Usman got knocked out when he stopped pressuring forward. It's exactly that. So if Edwards can push him back, he's going to win the fight. We haven't seen him do it. So I can't.
So you're surprised that Edwards won
I
the
am
poll.
I am shocked that Edwards
But
won
it's
the poll.
close.
I
It's
thought for
close.
sure Usman would be winning the poll.
Yeah, it's very close.
Yeah, I think the numbers were kind of where I thought they would be, but I thought Usman would be ahead. But co-main event, AK. I mean, what can we say? It's Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Go ahead and have at it. Give this fight the justice, the greatness that it already has, but butter it up even more because it deserves it.
This was a ought know listener. Mike, I feel like since we started doing On to the Next One, I don't know how many episodes we're in now, but we've been doing it for a long time. I almost feel like since episode 1, like Fiziev Gaethje has been there. It's been mentioned so many times. Like it's one of those. It's been mentioned so many times that if I didn't still want it so badly, I would have thought like it already happened. Just because it seemed like we're on a collision course, stylistically on a collision course, and we just need to see Fiziev pick up some quality wins, move up in the rankings, and boom, 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 boom. The man is taking care of business. He's both guys are insanely exciting. I'm just looking at their bonus resumes now. Gaethje's 10 bonuses in 9 fights. Fiziev is 5 bonuses in his past 5 fights. So he's on a bonus streak. And barring any weirdness, this is obviously the front runner for fight of the night. If whoever gets a finish, very likely could get the finish of the night. A performance bonus, I should say. I love this matchup so much, man. This is the kind of advantage the UFC has over other promotions. You know what I mean? Other promotions can give you like one of these fights, maybe a couple of times a year. These kind of like these must-have, just super banger fights. For the UFC, this is again a co-main on one of 13 pay-per-views. I'm sure 2 months from now, I can't. My mind is useless at this point. I'm sure there's some other banger I'm forgetting that's already booked 2 months from now, and we'll be talking about that one. So this kind of fight just shows like the depth of, as Jed and many others are frequent to remind us, the deepest, possibly best division in all of MMA historically, lightweight. And this is how good it is. Are there contender implications? Yeah, maybe a guy who gets an impressive win, gets a title shot, sure, but I don't even know if that really matters. Not to us anyway. I'm sure both guys will angle for it if whoever wins. But man, you're just getting a guaranteed barn burner. 2 of the toughest guys in again the toughest division. It's really exciting. And I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if people do this these days, but if you were buying this pay-per-view just for this fight, and you said, "Oh, the main event's great. I'm really buying it for this co-main event," I think you'd be completely justified. Like it's that compelling.
That is the sound of my garage door closing because my kid wants to ride his bike outside. So just all the noises that we have to battle through. Okay, there we go. Jed, you said we talked about something on BTL yesterday that I wanted to follow up with you on, because one of the questions we had is if you were the commissioner of the lightweight division, you said that Gaethje winning would be the best outcome for business. And it's really difficult to argue that. But now I'm going to have you step out of that role as a fan and as an admirer of the Cadillac division, 155 pounds, the best division in the sport. Does that person view it the same way? Because if Rafael Fiziev wins this fight, it doesn't fix everything, but it does create a little bit of freshness. Maybe some of the other up-and-comers will get their chance. Like if Justin Gaethje is going to stick around and keep fighting, yeah, he might fight the Max Holloways of the world or somebody like that, maybe a Masvidal, something like that. But if Fiziev wins, does it create any kind of an opening for some of these other top 5 names to fight some of these up-and-comers? Because now, we have a proof of concept here. We tried it with Mateusz Gamrot, Beneil Dariush. Dariush kind of shut that down, moved up a spot. But if Fiziev goes out there and takes care of business, is this a good thing for the lightweight division? Does this help solve the problem that we've had with this division for the last 18 months in some way?
I don't know. I'm looking at the UFC's rankings right now. I mean, it will be bad because it will be some upward movement, which is what we need. But the reality is that's just going to get solved over time. It takes longer than it should because of the structures of lightweight and how deep it is and how the top of that division is really interested in not leaving the top of that division. So they've just been round robining. So it'll create a little bit of a fissure there, which will help. But that'll also come over time. And I'm not sure how big a difference it is. Looking at the rankings, I just realized if Fiziev wins this, he's going to be ranked ahead of Beneil Dariush in the UFC's rankings, which is hilarious. Just just incredibly tough road to go for our man Vinny D. But I mean, it'll be fine. Like, I don't think it will matter that much either way in that regard, because this is just one step. This won't open the floodgates for, okay, now that Justin Gaethje has lost and is theoretically out of the top 5, though he may still actually hold the top 5 spot. Now we can put all of the new young hot shit guys coming through. They can start moving up. It just is what it is until Dustin Poirier retires or actively leaves the weight class, and Justin Gaethje does the same, and Michael Chandler does the same. There's just going to be some blocks there that you can't get around, because they are people of interest who are more interested in fighting either specifically title open fights for them or higher name value fights. And that's not who Grant Dawson is. It's not who Arman Sarukian is. They aren't big name fighters. So I just don't think it makes a major difference. I will say that it's good. As I mentioned yesterday, I have spin zoned myself into being okay with the Gaethje loss, because if Gaethje loses, then he can go on the Chris Lytle fun run, and we can get Max Holloway. We can get Jorge Masvidal. We can get him versus Drew Dober, because he's never going to fight Drew Dober. But if he loses and he realizes, I'm just never going to get a title fight again, let's just have fun. Drew Dober, he's supposed to fight Matt Favola. Is that right? He's fighting somebody.
Dober's fighting for Vola. He's fighting for Vola.
Yeah.
May 6th.
Yeah. We could just cancel that fight and just do Drew Dober versus Justin Gaethje, because that's a banger. So it's totally okay if Gaethje loses this one. I think it is better for business short term, and probably the same long term too, if he wins. But you could do a lot of fun things with Justin Gaethje once he's liberated of this desire to be a unified, undisputed champion.
Or we could have both fights. It's like less than 2 months away, right? We can have both fights. He can fight for Vola, and if he wins, then he can fight Gaethje.
I mean, sure, because he probably will beat Favola.
AK, Rafael Fiziev, a minus 240 favorite to beat Justin Gaethje tomorrow. Gaethje comes back at plus 200. Are you surprised by the odds? And give us your pick.
I'm not too surprised. I think, pardon me. I think people are looking at listen, Gaethje has been through some wars.
He's 34.
He's 34, and that's a hard 34. He's not a 34 like you or I, guys.
City miles.
He's got some road miles on there. So I think that's how people look at it, and they Fiziev is he that much younger? He definitely has less mileage, right? I don't know if he's that much younger in human.
That's extremely questionable. He's 30.
Yeah,
questionable on less mileage. Man has an extensive Muay Thai career, which arguably is much.
Listen,
arguably that is much harder on the body.
That's a pillow fight. That's a pillow fight compared to MMA. Come on, Muay Thai. No one ever got hurt doing Muay Thai.
Yes, Muay Thai in Thailand is a pillow fight. Famously,
you might as well be saying, "Oh, Lethway is really bad on the body." Like, come on now, Lethway is.
They always talk about how Bangla Stadium is just for the candy asses.
That's just grab ass. All right, that's touch butt in the park compared to MMA. No, I'm joking. But again, listen, younger fighter, a knockout threat. Gaethje gets hit a lot, and if people, I guess, maybe doing a technical breakdown, they might be thinking like Fiziev is a bit better technically. I mean, he shows a little more, I guess, diversity with his striking. I think Gaethje probably doesn't get enough credit for his technical skills. I think he's a great striker. He's not just he's not just a hammer, with an iron chin. So the odds make a lot of sense to me. I don't know if I agree with them. I'll say where I'm leaning in a bit, but 2-1 is a lot. 2-1 is a lot. I wonder when the last time Gaethje was a 2-1 underdog to a fighter. Maybe against Charles Oliveira. Maybe Habib, definitely.
Sure.
Habib for sure. And then before that, except for the 2 title fights, or I guess the non-title fight with Charles, except for the 2 title fights, I can't imagine he was a minus 200 against Alvarez. He's faced some big names, but.
He was a slightly less large of an underdog against Oliveira. Against Habib, he was a slightly bigger dog.
Yeah. This just tells me people, and this is sort of a theme of this the top 2 fights for me. This past, maybe a lot of this main card actually. The
about the same as he was against Ferguson actually.
Oh,
roughly
really?
the same
Okay.
as he was against Ferguson.
He was almost a
Which makes
2-1
sense.
underdog to Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, which makes sense. That was
Wow.
Ferguson hadn't lost in 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
It was on a
Sure,
13
sure.
fight win streak, and so it makes sense.
Yeah, and another title fight. So he is not. So Justin Gaethje has not been favored in title. That's kind of very telling that he's getting the same odds he would be getting if he was in a high stakes title fight. Plus odds, I should say. So that's kind of telling to me. And again, I admit I am leaning in that direction as well. That I don't know if I'm hoping to see the torch pass because I love Justin Gaethje. I hope he's healthy enough to fight for another 5-6 years and just keep giving us classics. But again, this is lightweight, and it's tough to stay relevant with these dogs kind of and without camping on a spot. And I think the camping might be over. Again, he's taking on Rafael Fiziev, and I understand why there's so much faith in Fiziev. He's looked incredible. So that's I have no beef with how the odds makers saw this one.
And what's the official pick?
Oh, you want the pick now? I'm going Fiziev. I'm going Fiziev. Like I said, I'm with the odds. 2-1 sounds a lot. Like I don't have that kind of confidence. It's like Jed says. If sort of with the main event, if I were betting just on the fight, I would probably take the Justin Gaethje odds. I assume you said he's a 2-1 underdog as well, right?
Yes,
It's close to that. Yeah.
Close to that.
Yeah.
I would take the Gaethje if I were betting, which I'm not on this particular fight. I would take the Gaethje odds. But if you're asking me who I'm picking to win, I think Fiziev will win.
Yeah, plus 200 right now as it stands.
Sure.
Jed, your thoughts on the line? And
I was going to say Fiziev by knockout. I will say I think Fiziev can finish him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Jed?
Yeah. Screw this decision talk.
Your thoughts on the line, and I'm sure you're happy to get a plus 200 Justin Gaethje price tag here.
I mean, I'm betting it. I'm not feeling confident at all. I think the smart read on the fight is that Fiziev wins, and maybe even wins by KO. The concern is that Gaethje's chin is going. He's been open about it. He said, when my chin goes, it's going to go quick. I don't have that many of these left. And I know that he has said that he hasn't had the wars that he was talking about, but we have eyeballs and we've seen him fight, and he sure as shit has had those wars. So the fact that Charles Oliveira repeatedly hurt him very early in that fight, it's concerning. But I'm choosing to believe that he is not shot, that the chin is still there, because Gaethje has been hurt kind of a lot in his career in general. But it's the same way that Dricus du Plessis is gassed out, but still just kind of fights his ass off anyway. It's Justin Gaethje with being hurt. Like, he's hurt, but he's still just going to keep going until his body totally abandons him, or you choke him out. Fiziev's not going to choke him out. So I think Justin Gaethje's body will hold up here. The question for me tactically, I think both guys are just going to just kill the legs and the body. Gaethje's high shell defense opens up him to a ton of body shots. Fiziev's very good at those. Gaethje's great kicker, and Fiziev hasn't shown great defense of leg kicks. I think we're about to get a Justin Gaethje fight. Like, it is. I think this is gonna look the same as the other fights that he's had, where it's just hammer and tongs, baby, until one guy falls down. And it's probably smart to pick Fiziev in that. He's younger, theoretically fresher, the better technician in the striking game, but I refuse to pick against Justin Gaethje just because he's the most exciting fighter that's ever existed. So it feels morally corrupt to pick against him in a fight. So I'm going to choose Gaethje to win a fight of the year decision. I know I'm calling it a decision, which is insane with this fight, but I think it's just going to be the same two dudes laying it all out there and chipping pieces of each other off until 15 minutes rings.
Yeah, these two dudes are going to beat the hell out of each other. I'm excited to see a Justin Gaethje in the octagon who can actually breathe out of his nose, because when I spoke to him in October of last year, he said he's had nose issues since he was in college and had all those crazy fights really not being able to breathe through his nose, which is nuts. But he's got it all cleaned up.
He might be supercharged now. He might be supercharged.
Maybe a mythical
now.
creature.
It's like in the Fast and the Furious.
It might be too much air, though. It might be too much air.
No.
Maybe that was the key. Maybe the key was
it's allergy season, so it all evens out.
Yep.
There'll be a little bit of stuffiness, but not too much.
You get it.
Just the right amount. There we go.
So it'll balance out. Okay.
Do they have allergies in England?
They have to.
We
The
have to look
pollen
that up.
counts are out of control.
I don't
I
have any
just
idea what pollen is like in England.
you
So
you travel with it, so I'm
you
sure
live in the South. There's a shitload of pollen where you are, Mike. I
so
grew up
much.
there.
My eyes are on fire. My eyes have been on fire for a month straight. But I just feel like Fiziev is such a special talent, and there aren't many that can hang with Gaethje in the type of fight that we're going to get, but Fiziev can. Plus, he has a lot of tools that could give Justin problems, and vice versa. To say that Fiziev is immune to anything Justin Gaethje could do is just wrong. So from a betting perspective, if I had to choose a side, like if I had the hypothetical $20, I'm taking Justin Gaethje at plus 200. It's so hard to ignore. But my official pick, this fight exceeds expectations. We do get a classic, and Fiziev catches Gaethje with something nasty to the body before he puts him away in the third round. This will be a stock riser still for both guys, but it's going to be a nice big stock riser for Fiziev. I'm going with the favorite to get it done. And like Jed said, a probable fight of the year. It's going to be on the list when it's all said and done.
Y'all are just predicting Trevor Whitman to have a real crappy trip to England, eh?
Yep.
Just no love for Trevor Whitman this weekend. Okay.
Come back, Rose. Come back, Rose. Save this man.
I think eventually Fiziev's just going to get him in the body. Like, he's just going to get him with something nasty, like late in the fight. Even a fight that Gaethje could be winning at the time.
We're going to get a Scott Smith. Scott Smith gets hurt to the body, crumbles up, and Justin Gaethje just unloads a right hand from hell and sends Fiziev into the afterlife. Yeah, I might retire. If that happens, I might actually retire if that happens.
If that happens,
we peaked. We've done it.
You win.
The sport's over now.
You win the picks. Before we'll take a couple questions at the end, but AK, one other fight. Name one other fight you are the most excited about outside the main and co-main event, and why?
Well, I don't know if there is another one because sorry, I did another poll. Guys, I'm doing you don't know this. I'm doing polls all the time when you're not looking. And I asked what fight are you most excited about? And I kind of I isolated the top two because listen, I put the top two against the field. Edwards Usman 3 or Gaethje Fiziev. Other, leave a comment. So I actually gave, there's a lot of room there in other 1%. So I clearly did not forget some other standout fight. Edwards Usman still leading the pack. So forget what I said. Forget what I said about Gaethje Fiziev, being the clear cut, like this is the must see fight of the card. Edwards Usman 54%, Gaethje Fiziev 44%. So pretty decent advantage for the main event. And good. Listen, respectful storyline, titles in line. I understand. I will be most excited for Gaethje Fiziev, but I'm a weirdo like that. One other fight on the card. I got to stick with main card because I am super intrigued by the Marvin Vettori Roman Dolidze fight. Dolidze, I keep picking against this guy. He keeps winning fights. I'll probably pick him against him again. I think Vettori is a little too sturdy for him to pull off some of the things that Dolidze has been pulling off against some other fighters, but I didn't think he'd beat Jack Hermanson the way he did. So if he's able to finish or pull out a convincing win over Marvin Vettori, man, I don't know. The sky's the limit for this guy because he's super talented. He was doing the thing in 2022. He's just taking tough fights. He's just jumping at opportunities. And this is his reward, man. This is his reward. A title, former titles challenger, a win that this gets Dolidze into the top 10 in our rankings. I think he's number 14. So he can take Vettori's spot with a win here. I don't think he can do it. But again, he's proven me wrong over and over and over and over again recently. So that to me is there's some good prelim fights, but I'm going to be keyed in as soon as the main card starts.
Jed, what's yours?
Well, just to speak on AK's point, I'm fairly confident Marvin Vettori can't be stopped with a shotgun. So I have a lot of doubts that Roman Dolidze can do it with just his arms and legs. That'll be incredibly impressive if he pulls it off. But Marvin Vettori, that man is just a square, just an impenetrable square of a human being. I talked about it yesterday on BTL, Mike, and I'm sold. Give me Sam Patterson versus Yanal Ashmov. I know that that's nobody's fight that they're most interested in, but it's a relatively weak prelim card. And What did I say 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the fight. You remember what I said? It was all about Jalen Turner and how Jalen Turner has physical gifts that other men don't. And he's a 6'3" lightweight. He was like the second tallest dude on that card. Well, guess what? We found another 6'3" lightweight for him. Sam Patterson is enormous. When we were doing No Bets Barred this week, our guest Alex Richings came on. He's UK based with MMA on point, and he was like, you guys got to check this guy out. A lot of hype around Sam Patterson as the next big thing coming out of England. Really interested to see how he does in his debut. And you sold me. We have now given me a guy who, if he can put together some wins and follow up on the promise, we can have him versus Jalen Turner, a middleweight fight being contested at 155 pounds. And who isn't interested in watching that? I for sure am. So Sam Patterson, let's go.
Incredible. Very much looking forward to Casey O'Neill's return. I have been extremely high on her. I feel like she's been forgotten in a lot of this lightweight discussion, and she gets the toughest fight of her career against Jennifer Maia. We'll see how she does. And I'll throw one more out there. Lerone Murphy, Gabriel Santos. Good grief. That's going to be a good fight. That is a good fight. Very excited for that one. I feel like Gabe Santos, because he's coming in on short notice and all of that, kind of being overlooked here. The betting odds are pretty tight, but it's going to be a good fight. Gabe Santos is going to give Lerone Murphy hell. I'm picking Lerone, but it's going to be a competitive fight. I'm very much looking forward to that. Okay, we'll take a couple questions. Let's bring in the baddest stash in MMA. Casey Leiden. There he is.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Wow, I'm
still
recovering from that Jed Meshew, Colby Covington rant.
Evisceration.
I'm not even trying to be mean to Colby. I say this shit all the time about Stipe too. Fight somebody from this decade, please. I don't think that's a huge ask. I really don't.
I want to kind of go back to that real quick with Mr. Bozo. Oops, let me blow this up.
Was Colby backup fighter kept quiet because Dana didn't want to spin any narrative to justify it. So we got proof in our Slack channel that Jose was in front of Dana White, so we'll probably get the answer to that question. True or false, Jed? Dana's answer is going to be something to the effect of, if you needed to know, I would have told you, kind of a thing.
It's probably pretty true. I have no idea why they kept it quiet, so it's hard for me to even speculate. My guess is he will blow the question off almost entirely of, we needed one. He's the guy. He just fought for the title, had a good fight with Usman, felt it was good. Next question.
Yeah, he won't really justify other than what the real justification is he just sells. Colby still sells. I mean, look at I was looking at the numbers. I think Colby weighing in completely blew away any other kind of stats for the weigh-ins. A guy that's not even fighting. It was just it felt very pro wrestling to me, in the sense like this new, like they play his music and someone just walks out all of a sudden. I was just kind of shocked. Like, how can this be a real sport at the highest level where we're just gonna announce, oh, this guy's gonna fight in case Leon trips on a cable? It's just very weird. And one thing I don't quite understand too about the whole backup fighter, like, no one's contractually obligated to fight Colby, right?
My assumption is that they are not, but also the UFC can do whatever the hell they want to do with their belts. So if you refuse to fight him, they can take the belt from you.
Yeah, it's just a weird. I don't like this trend. It's bad. Here we go.
Sorry. I just want to say about the last question though is that Dana White justifying things to the media is so low on Dana White's list of priorities. I don't even know if it's on the list, to be honest with you. So it's the fundamental part of the question is flawed to me, because he doesn't give a rat's ass if we like.
He'll pick and choose the media that he wants to.
Oh yeah. Oh, certain members of the media, sure, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care if they announce it in that week and the criticism. He doesn't care about that stuff.
He's not going to justify it to the New York Times.
Yeah.
Or the Las Vegas Review Journal. Yeah. Who's the underdog upset win of the week? I think So I picked Leon. AK picked Leon. So that's a 2-1 underdog right there. Any
I
Jed?
picked Gaethje, also a 2-1. It's
There you go.
I don't
There's an
I don't
upset
feel
pick.
great about any of these underdogs. Like I've got the bet on Gaethje, but I don't feel confident in it.
Is there a betting line to you that is just way too wide? That you look at and just like, oh, this is way too wide right now. This should not be the case.
It wouldn't totally shock me if Jafal Filio pulled out a win over Muhammad Makayev. Like Makayev's just really, really young, and he has shown limitations. Even though we're obviously all super high on him, sometimes you just have setbacks, and it wouldn't stun me. So minus 850 for him is still a lot, but I don't know, man. I don't feel wildly confident about any underdog on this card.
Makayev did have to bring out the box of redemption for
He
the
did.
weigh-ins.
Correct.
So maybe, the weight cut is getting just harder and harder, as he's getting a little older. So those things could play.
Yeah, I'm certainly not picking against Makayev, but he is getting sort of like Bellator prelim odds, which is crazy for a guy who's 21 years old. He's 21 years old. I feel like 22. Excuse me. He turned 22 last July. I do feel like anytime you're giving even a mega prospect, this guy who again has the kind of fighting style that a wrestling base, that is a very good way to avoid risk. Getting taking a fluke loss. I don't struggle with my words here. I don't know why. I understand why he's such a heavy favorite, why his opponent's such massive underdogs. But boy, it's for a 22-year-old guy to be getting again minus 850, as Jed mentioned, or plus 600 underdog for his opponent. And you feel like at some point something's got to give. I'll go to answer the question. We were just talking about Sam Patterson. His opponent is plus 235. I guess that's not crazy. That's not crazy. He's a minus 280 favorite, which I said is like almost 3-1 to me. Sounds like a lot for a guy making his UFC debut. But so I would lean more towards that direction. These things are just so unpredictable. But listen, you guys talk to a guy who knows more about Sam Patterson than I do, so maybe I shouldn't question it. But that one sticks out to me a little bit.
My big underdog upset would be Jennifer Maia. This is a giant jump up in competition for Casey O'Neill, coming off how long she's been out for, over a year, right?
Over a year.
Yeah. And no, she's coming off, and that was just her last one was that split decision over Roxanne, I think on her retirement fight maybe. So yeah, just a big jump up in competition for Casey O'Neill, and look who Jennifer Maia's lost to. She's only lost to basically top 5 fighters: Liz Carmouche, Caitlin Chikagian, Valentina, and Manon Farrow. So we're gonna see if Casey O'Neill is in that category. I'm not sure. I am picking Casey O'Neill, but wouldn't be shocked if Maia wins. And Maia's a big underdog too.
Yeah, I will say.
She's not a big underdog. She's
it's funny. So
it's not too bad. I actually thought this line was going to be wider. I thought Casey was going to be a bigger favorite than this.
However, I will say,
sorry,
she's only a plus 140.
Plus 150.
Oh wow. Okay. No, I was going by Tapology picks, and like 75% of people are picking Casey O'Neill.
Right now it's 80%.
Oh, sorry, 80%. 80%. So I was like, geez,
on Tapology. So very different. Yeah, very different from the. But again, Tapology is I don't want to say more educated necessarily, but I consider it to be a little more of a hardcore crowd. I think if you sign up for Tapology account, you're a little more hardcore. So it's not always going to reflect the betting odds. The betting odds are to appeal to a different set group of people. And again, I'm not saying one is more right than the other. Like I think plus 140 is more accurate, but again, like you said, Tapology. 80%, 4-1. So that essentially translates to 4-1. Maia favorite. That's pretty. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Casey favorite, Maia underdog. But so that's pretty surprising.
All right.
Also, I don't think Jai Herbert's a bad underdog look either.
What's he at right now?
He's plus 165.
165. Okay.
What do you think? Is anyone picking Delitze?
No.
I'm not
almost
picking
for the same reason. Almost as the same reasons that Jed said. Like I think for Delitze to win, he's going to have to put Marvin away, and I just don't know if anybody can put Marvin away.
Hard to kill.
Honestly, one of my more confident picks in on this card is Marvin Vettori.
Amirkhani plus 400. I know we're all saying if it goes past the first round, Amirkhani's toast, but this is a new weight class for Jack Shore. We don't know what we're going to see. Jack Shore's really good though. So.
You answered your own question.
Don't bet on MMA. Let me just
Don't bet on Makwan Amirkhani for sure.
Don't bet on MMA. All right, listen. That's what I should always be telling people.
You can't read the lines that far.
This is a very handsome dude,
Very handsome,
but
man.
Undeniable.
But Jed,
there will be a point in a fight where you will be like, I can't believe I put money on Makwan Amirkhani. And you should always try to avoid those sad moments in life.
But that fight could be a good one for live betting, right? You made a good point on David Smart about this.
Live betting against Makwan Amirkhani is a great business model. You just see what the line is after the first round and you bet on the other guy because Makwan is done. He has nothing left to offer. He gave you a good 4.5 minutes. That'll be the end of his day.
Sorry, I'm bringing this question up because it seemed ridiculous when I read it, but it actually kind of makes sense.
I don't like where this is going.
Is Lize getting a title shot if he wins?
Who's beat Vettori? But look who beats Vettori. Guys who get title shots.
If Adesanya wins, maybe. But if Pereira wins, Bobby Knuckles is getting a title.
Well, maybe not like directly next, but like if Delize wins somehow,
yes,
is he really within like basically he's number one contender? He'll fight Whitaker.
He's a win away.
Win away. I think that's pretty incredible. Yeah, that's why I was more thinking like, wow, like Delize, like this is such a big fight for him. Like he can, I don't know. I never thought of him truly as being a championship contender, but he's one win away.
And it's
almost a contender fight.
Yeah.
Like if he wins, he might get to be the backup fighter for Pereira Robert Whitaker matchup. Like that's he will need one more, but you could theoretically slot him in if things broke really well for him. Though I think Dricus du Plessis probably is a bigger star or whatever, so might have the inside track on him there.
Yeah. And it's like we always say when guys get themselves in this position, it's important just to be on the short list, right? Like just because you never know what can happen. People get injured all the time. People, I had to get a surgery. Not even like an injury withdrawal, but I had to get surgery. I can't fight until October. I can't fight until November. And Roman Dolidze has been fighting very actively. So I kind of like raised my eyebrows to the question at first.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, listen, once you make that short list, you just want to be in the conversation, and stranger things have happened, and people get title shots in these circumstances all the time. So I don't think it guarantees anything, but yeah, it's nice to be in that top 5, top 6 of the matchmakers charts when they're trying to figure out who to match up. You're in there. So yeah, it is surprising the rise that he's made.
Look at Jamal Hill this time last year.
There we go.
He just beat Johnny Walker and was still like 4 wins away from a title shot.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of crazy shit happened, and now he's the champion.
He's the UFC champion, right? You just got to be on the list. You just got to be on the list. And a win puts Roman Dolidze on the list.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When I saw this question, I was like, "What?" And then I kind of thought about it. I was like, "Oh man, you know what?"
I think DDP's rooting. I think DDP's rooting for Roman Dolidze. I think that could headline a fight night.
That's a contender. Sure. That's the number 1 contender fight leading a fight night card in August.
Yeah. And if Roman doesn't win this fight, I mean, who knows who DDP fights next? He could. The
loser of Pereira Adesanya.
Maybe.
That's who he needs to fight. I just want to see it. I don't care about anything else. I want to see that man recklessly dive onto Alex Pereira's punches. It would be incredible.
That is beautiful.
Would it not be the most fun fight imaginable, him versus Pereira?
Hey, has that fan asked at the presser, is fighting beautiful?
That fight is for sure beautiful.
I don't know if it'd be beautiful, but it'd be really fun.
Same.
Hilarious.
Same thing. All right, is the window pane mean we're done?
You know what?
We can take one more if there's anything else.
because we barely mentioned his name, so let's talk about him.
Will Gunnar Nelson fight again this year after tomorrow? The dude is so inconsistent.
I don't have a crystal ball, so pretty much impossible to tell. A fair question to ask, certainly. And it is nice that he's getting one in the first quarter, which should. I'm trying to see. Let's see how this is. So he fought in the first quarter of last year. Yeah, almost a year ago.
A day apart.
And if you had asked me then,
last year,
is he going to fight again? I probably would have said yes. I would have said like, yeah, he's back, and that was his first fight in over like 2.5 years. So there was a big break before that, and I would have totally believed he would have fought at least twice in 2022. I'm not sure what happened. I don't think he was booked. He wasn't booked. He wasn't booked. Okay, so not even sure what happened there. But yeah, listen, Prince of Positivity. You know what? Brandon, who asked this question, you're damn right Gunnar Nelson's going to fight again. Win or lose, you're going to see Gunnar Nelson back in the cage. I would have been totally wrong if I had said that last year, but I'm sticking with it. I got to be right eventually.
Man, I didn't even look at this for No Bets Barred, but he fought Alan Jaban on March 18th of 2017, Leon Edwards March 16th of 2019, and Takashi Sato March 19th of 2022. The man this is his weekend. This is the Gunnar Nelson
he loves
week. He loves the Ides of March or St. Patrick's Day,
or the end of March break,
or Stone Cold week. Yeah. What is it?
yeah. There's nothing like capping off March break with a Gunnar Nelson fight. That is what they say.
Hey, 2-1, and that one loss was a splitty to Leon Edwards, so it's working out for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
beware the Gunnar Nelson in mid-March.
If this fight is less than 2 rounds, I will say yes. If it hits round 3, that means Brian Barberena is just being a freaking dog, and he's putting some boots to Gunny.
You think that?
No,
I think it. No. I think it means if this hits round 3, Brian Barberena is just being backpacked for 12 minutes.
Maybe, but Gunnar. I don't think this fight's going to get out of the first round. It's not going to get out of the first 7 minutes. I think Gunny's eventually going to tap him. But Brian's tough as hell. But that means, if Gunny finishes him within 2 rounds, yes, we'll see him again. But if he has to work again in the 3rd round, then I'll say no. Quick finish, yes. Decision, no.
I honestly forgot what he looked like when he walked into the weigh-ins. I was like, it's been that long. I was like, but yeah, cool. Gunny's back.
All right.
I think we're good, gentlemen.
Well, you can hit the music. A busy day is upon us. Tomorrow, 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time, People's Pre-Fight Show. Don't forget, early start times for all of this stuff. So 12:15, lunchtime, People's Pre-Fight Show. Lead you right into the first punches of UFC 286. And then at 4:45 p.m. Eastern, watch party time. Myself and GC will be live in the MMA Hour studio, watching the fights with you guys. Shaheen Al-Shadi will join us. New York Rick will join us. Perhaps a surprise or two will also join us. There's your tease. But that's all I can say right now. And then post-fight show, press conference. On to the next one on Sunday with myself and my best friend over there. And Jose is in London right now. So all of your post-fight scrums, interviews, so forth and so on. We have you covered, so stick with us at MMAfighting.com. For AK, for Casey, for Jed Meshew, I am Mike Heck. Get some rest, everybody. Have a great St. Paddy's Day, and do so responsibly. All right? We'll see you tomorrow.
Love y'all.
Ooh, wrong one.